What up? All right. So, I was reading on a message board, and someone was trying to say that hip hop was worse. You get these sort of struggle statements every now and then. They'll insert some date from 2000s is worse than today, right? No, no. This year is the worst in hip hop history. 2017 was previously the worst in hip hop history because something that y'all might not realize is that this hip hop shit gets worse every year because it's kind of dead and it's been sort of dead for a minute now, but it really is getting worse. And I'll tell you, as someone who's been listening to this shit for a while, what started to happen. Okay, in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, what we started to see were people that would come out with like three or four really good songs, but the rest of the CD would be trash. Now, this also started in the late 90s, by the way, but at least in the late 90s, you had a DMX, right? Who came out the gate with a pretty much classic album, or close, right? Mos Def, Black on Both Sides, kind of classic, right? Um, you had Ghostface with Supreme Clientele in 2000s, right? In 2000, like which is arguably the last really fantastic, amazing hip hop album, right? So, um, you have also MF Doom. I think he dropped Doomsday on in '99 or 2000. But my point is, there was a shift because in the mid '90s, in the early to mid '90s, um, and even into a little bit of the late '90s, you saw dudes who dropped like classic projects or near classic. Like even if there was a couple of missteps on the album, the whole thing was usually like just a tour de force, like just come out the gate and you're like, wow. And it's a new artist. You start to seeing that in the 2000s. Name an artist that came out in the 2000s. I mean, from 2000 to 2010, a new artist that dropped an album that made you go, shit, the whole thing. There's not a single one. And that's what started to happen. What started to happen was people started dropping whack ass albums, but they would drop like one or two really good songs. And I remember this shit because I used to, like, I mean, I'm old, man, to a certain degree. So I would go to like Stylus Mag, for those of y'all who remember Stylus Mag, and Stylus Mag would literally list, like, they would try to pick the best one or two tracks that someone had dropped on an album. And there would be a list of them. So every year you would kind of check them out or whatever. And that's kind of what it was because we all knew that these dudes weren't dropping great albums. Now, there was this lie in the underground at the time because I remember this shit where people would pretend like we were still dropping great albums. So they would just list everything that came out that year. So, like, for example, if you were into Static Selecta and that underground shit, you would just list Static Selecta released an album, Rusty Jux released an album, Marco Polo released an album, so hip hop is great. No, those albums were trash. We don't care about those albums. No one ever listened to them shits. You know what I mean? Like, the vast majority of hip hop fans do not give a fuck about those dudes, with all due respect, right? Like, you have to look at the quality of what's released. It's not about the name of who drops an album. Nas dropped an album this year, so hip hop is great. No, if that album was trash, it doesn't matter if Nas dropped it or not, because what speaks for hip hop is the quality of the album, not who drops the album, right? And you started to see this a lot in the 2000s, or I should say the 2000s. Is yeah, you would hear like, you know, Made You Look, fire track, incredible record, right? The rest of the album, you know, um, again, Stillmatic, it was cool. It was cool. Like there were some fantastic records on there, and then there were some records that you don't really give a fuck about. Blueprint, fantastic album for the most part. I mean, there are some records again I don't really give a fuck about, but you're not gonna like you can't compare Blueprint to a Nomadic. It's just not that level of flawless. It's not, right? And again, that is still in the early 2000s. When you start to really get into like 2004, to me, when I say that this hip hop shit really went left, um, 2004 to me is when this hip hop shit really started to fucking fall off. Because you had Kanye West, who's trash for the most part. You had Young Jeezy come out, who was also super trash. Um, and you had Eminem dropping stuff, who was also pretty trash a lot of the time. So, like, there was just a lot of garbage. And then Wayne started coming up, and all of that shit was garbage. So, in the late or mid 2000s, you start to really see people drop one dope song, shit album. And we've been in that space for so long. In fact, we've been in that space for so long, people don't even realize that when they're hyping these albums on the best of year and year endless, they don't even realize that they're doing the same shit that people used to do in the 2000s, where they'd hype up an album that was trash and no one listened to after the next year. Like literally, you will see stuff on 2018's best of list that I guarantee no one will listen to in 2019. Straight up. Just like the shit that people were putting on the best end list in 2017, we've already forgotten about. Nobody listens to 444. Nobody listens to Damn anymore. It's just the real talk. Music comes and goes like that because a lot of it is fucking garbage. It's not even like cool. It's like fucking garbage. Now, when you tell me and say that 2002, for example, was the worst year in hip hop history, I look at it and I go, what came out in 2002? It's funny because I kind of don't remember. Isn't that crazy? Again, what great albums came out in 2002? I'm sure there were a couple. They were like pretty good, but nothing that was like, wow. And that's the point, right? Now, there were great tracks in 2002, without a doubt. I think Major Look came out in 2002, maybe late 2002. I'm trying to think. Some of 50 shit came out that year, I think. That was a good year. That was a decent year. It was, again, not great, but definitely way better than this year. Way better. I mean, this is the thing. You got to keep it honest, man. You got to keep it honest because I see people say that, hip hop was so bad in the 2000s, but I'm looking at 2009. Okay, in 2009, shit was trash. Don't get me wrong. It was, again, we were in that garbage ass era, right? But in 2009, Method Man, I think, Method Man Redman had an album, Blackout 2. And there are a couple of tracks on Blackout 2. In fact, some of those tracks on Blackout 2, although not incredible, are better than just about anything released right now. Let's keep it real. This is for all my smokers. I take that over 99% of shit that's been released in 2018. Including the older rap shit. It's better than anything from fucking Daytona, that's for sure. Or the J album or whatever. And again, that's what I'm saying. You gotta be honest, man.